Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back to the second episode of Uncomfy Truths Politics Talk. I'm your co-host, Conservative Brother. I'm here to bring you another perspective of, the not so politically correct view from a Black experience point of view. I'm here with my other co-host, Conspiracy Brother. How you doing today?
Hey, what's up? This conspiracy brother here, trying to get into some things. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring some light on just some topics or some perspectives that we have that we feel like aren't adequately represented in media currently, and so we'll give our own views and opinions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Yeah, we got a nice little music intro for y'all. And we gotta have a little bit of screen sharing too. All right. So, as our music wraps up, our topic tonight is, and we're going to touch on obviously, events in the news and whatever's hot, hot topics, current events. Has politics become the new religion? Has politics become the new religion? And we have a couple articles we're going to throw up. But I want to first of all, Conspiracy Brother, get your opening thoughts on this phenomenon the past few years where 5, 10 years, I'd say it started more in 2015, 2016, but 10 years ago, there wasn't this pop culture. Politics was not a part of pop culture as much as it is now, where people are literally identifying and like in this sort of cult, if you will, of their political beliefs. So, what are your thoughts, Conspiracy Brother, on has politics become the new religion?
Well, I'll say first. I want to say this is a great topic, and I think it's controversial because religion is something that people hold very dear, near and dear, nearly and dearly. And so, this is a good topic, opportunity for people to kind of check the temperature within their own
Mm-hmm.
personal ideologies or whatever. But I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think we can really, I think we can really pinpoint all this back to Obama's '08 campaign, honestly, because you've
Mm-hmm.
always, I mean, I think the conservative right has done a good job of of mixing religion and politics in a way that
Mm-hmm.
when you look at Reagan and his embrasure of evangelical Christians, which from another podcast I watched, I learned actually came from Jimmy Carter. He was the one who really kind of brought that evangelical Christian
Mm-hmm.
uh, perspective to politics, but he was a Democrat. And he used that I guess when he ran in, must have been '76.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the way and when you look at the framing of the question, it's has politics replaced religion or is it the new religion? We're understanding that to mean that it's not in conjunction with your political decisions are motivated by religious conviction, but it has politics in itself, has your political party, has the political party ideology replaced your religious convictions, your religious ideology, whatever religious morality that you had before has it been totally replaced. And like I said, when you look at the cult of personality that surrounded Obama with the massive use of social media, when you look at how different Hollywood and different areas of American entertainment and cultural media pushed him from different songs. Will I Am had a song. All these different Hollywood groups and celebrities in the media pushed him, and then when you look at around the world, I mean, they pushed him as a larger than life figure who really transcended politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can kind of see how the groundwork was laid for what we see today, and I don't necessarily think that it would be crazy to say that you see a lot of those similarities in Trump. In
Mm-hmm.
the ways in which some Trump supporters can deify him and portray him in a way that uh, I mean, you've seen it posted that God specifically had Trump put in office to save America, to protect the
Mm-hmm.
babies. Like when you look at a lot of QAnon stuff, and so I mean, you see similarities in that too. But it's definitely, in my opinion, to answer the question, I do think for a lot of people, religion has been replaced by
Mm-hmm.
politics.
Well said, my friend. And like I mentioned before, I'll be upfront and transparent. I technically didn't vote for Donald Trump. Part of it in 2020 was that literally I was still in transition, moving from one state to another, and I honestly didn't get the damn ballot in time. Uh, but I would have actually voted for Trump in 2020. So technically, in spirit, I voted for Trump in 2020, but technically, I didn't. I never attended his rallies. I never publicly endorsed him. Um, like many of the other sheep, to be honest, I fell for a lot of the mainstream hate propaganda on him early on in 2016, and but a lot of that afterwards, I started critically thinking for myself because I already knew Hillary was corrupt, and there was a lot going on with her, warmongering, leaked emails, tactics, things like that. And I discovered that as I came through my red pill awakening, I discovered, man, that most of the things that people have been conditioned to hate him for weren't true. And like I said, I later found out in the president, in his presidency that a lot of that stuff, the Russiagate stuff, was legitimately wrong. Now, am I like this hardcore Trump supporter? No. But at the same time, I see that the other side did a lot of foul things. And of course, he had a lot of people in his cabinet and people that I think were just feeding him the wrong information, kind of self-sabotaged him. While he did do some good things to run the economy well. So me, I personally, even as conservative brother, my little title goes, I don't identify as a Republican, a GOP. I don't identify as a Trumper or blacks for Trump. When someone accuses me, conspiracy brother, one of those labels, I could care less. I am not solely pro-Trump, but I'm not strictly anti-Trump either. I'm just simply neutral on Trump because he's done just as much. I'd say he's done maybe a third or a quarter of the fucked up shit versus the 3/4 that he did do well. And in some aspect, I feel like he's a little more part of the establishment now than he was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, which is concerning. But I don't fall into like that Trump cult that is concerning just as much as you got like the vaccine cult, the mandate mask cult. You have a Trump cult. Let's acknowledge that, where people are literally like, Trump is here to save us. It's been prophesized, and he's going to come back and do all that. But that's just not the case, you know. So that's kind of part of where I stand. And another thing I like to say is that a lot of people don't think about too is that it doesn't bother me, and I'm not mad at the amount of Americans out there who simply hate Trump for the right factual things that he's actually responsible for. But the underlying issue that disturbs me is when there's so many people out there who simply hate Trump for all the wrong surface level reasons that the Democrats and the globalists completely manufactured. And most people don't even get that. That kind of goes over their head. They should be mad at some. There are some things that Trump legitimately screwed up on, and things that like, hey, I'm not gonna fool with you for that. But most people, conspiracy brother, with this mass formation psychosis, they are caught in the manufactured propaganda that the Democrats really put out there and constructed from his day one in office. That was completely uh fabricated. That's what gets me, is that people can't
Yeah,
see why they're really mad at Trump. Even remember why they don't even remember a time before they didn't hate Trump.
well,
And
see,
that's the concerning thing, that they're caught in this cult and this religion of their politics. Yeah.
and that's the thing. Like excuse me, when you look at what you're saying, it started even before he took office,
Yep.
where you saw I mean, there's been all kind of stuff leaked from the Hillary Clinton campaign at this point now, or I won't even say leaked, released, but stuff that she said about how we needed to, by we I mean their campaign,
Mm-hmm.
they needed to try to accuse Trump of doing things that they were doing, and she said that was a Russian technique, a common Russian tactic. I mean, just the way that they completely tried to delegitimize his candidacy
Mm-hmm.
all up until he won, and then delegitimize his presidency for 4 years, like you said, based on a lie. And it's like, if you stand for truth, which is the objective of our show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Irrespective of whether you like Donald Trump or not, irrespective of whether you like his policies or not, we have to understand that he won fairly, and that because 2 to 3 years later, or if you want to include the 4 years he was president and the
Mm-hmm.
2 years post, 6 years later, we haven't been able to corroborate any evidence that
Mm-hmm.
shows that he had any meaningful relationship with Russia, with Russian people, with the president of Russia, with any Russian spies, or anybody trying to do any dirty business with Russian people in order to, you know, defeat Hillary Clinton in the election. Like, there's nothing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing there. We have to understand that. We have to accept that. And for so many of us, because we have invested such emotional and mental and physical uh, into this process, right? It's no longer
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer a um, uh, it's no longer a we don't just hold it like this is how I feel, but it becomes a belief, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
belief not rooted in reality, right? It's a
Yeah.
faith based. This is just like you ask someone who would be considered a religious fanatic. You'd say, do you believe this about God? This impossible, whatever. That in the everyday physical world, you would say this is impossibility. It's not physically possible. It defies the laws of science and nature and physics or whatever. And they would say, yes, it's the same thing where people have a feeling that Trump is guilty no matter what. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, there are plenty of things that you could be upset at him about. There are plenty of things that he did that we could be upset about. There are plenty of things that he allowed to happen. I mean, you could just be upset at some of the people he stocked his cabinet with, from
Mm-hmm.
John Bolton to you look at Gina Haspel, who is the head of the CIA right now. You look at just those two people to rattle off right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you could look at different policies that he implemented that you may disagree with. All these things are legitimate problems that you could have with him for empowering U.S. hegemony and empire in the ways that he did it, upholding U.S. empire, right, globally.
Mm-hmm.
But they choose to create a story that is completely unjustifiable and hang their hat on that. And this gets to a deeper situation that we'll have to get into, in another episode. But I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the reason why a lot of your politicians don't attack Trump on the more substantive issues is because they're guilty of those as well. So they won't get him on necessarily maybe doing shady deals uh,
Yeah.
or or uh, or uh, or some of the impropriety that comes with that, because they're all engaged in those same processes. You look at Joe Biden and his son and their relationship and his brother, and there may be the most corrupt political family that we have in DC that we know about. And that's saying something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not to have a political bias about it. But when you understand the levels of corruption and grift and fraud that he has been involved with in his 50 years in politics, and his
Mm-hmm.
son, he may be the most corrupt person in DC that we know about. Because there are always people that we don't know about who could be, who could make Joe Biden look like Saint Mother Teresa. So,
Well said, man. As Hunter likes to call his own dad, Pedo Pete. And I'm just kind of going through here. You guys can see. You can see my screen, right? Do you see my
Yeah, let me
screen?
pull it up. Let me pull it up. I have to pull it up.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, like that. All right, yeah. Because I had this boy going. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, I had to share my screen, and then you gotta share it through my screen. Yeah. So yeah, it just goes to show, man. These are just some articles that me and conspiracy brother kind of went through earlier. For many Americans on the left and the right, politics have become imbued with the kind of religious fervor, while at the same time participation in actual organized religion has plummeted. So I think we've become really a nation of like instead of trying to find peace, trying to find understanding in our differences, it's about the party who's right. And people rather destroy this country than admit they're wrong, which is very, very troubling, you know. Um, and with that last point you mentioned about Hunter and Joe Biden, it's just amazing how much the media, obviously, which has been in these politicians in the Democratic Party's pocket for so long, how they just are just out in the open with it. I mean, I literally can't be on a Twitter feed without stumbling over one of Hunter Biden's laptop clips that just got, I don't think they should have that. That means you saving it on camera roll and you posting it on there. It's literally like child porn that people are like, well, this is Biden. Look at him on his computer. Look what he's doing. I'm like, bro, you still sharing your Twitter. That's not good, you know. But it's out there in the open, and you see the media just going double time just to dismiss it and to throw it
Well,
under the rug. And oh yeah,
so
yep.
so that's since you brought that up, that's actually funny because I was talking to some coworkers about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is dude always uh why is dude always around a camera when he's doing something illicit? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
This
I
man
have
problem.
never in my life heard of a person smoking crack in front of a camera so much. And then somebody I was listening to said, you factor that and his daughter, Joe Biden's daughter, with that notebook, the diary that she left behind. And he said there may be some kind of like subconscious cries for help. And so they keep
Mm-hmm.
doing these behaviors where they're like reaching out and exposing themselves in hopes that they can, you know, basically like to come clean, but it's like a subconscious thing. Because like the dude is he's weighing and arguing with, what everybody assumes is a prostitute
Mm-hmm.
about the weight of his
Child
crack.
prostitute from the looks of it.
Yeah, about the weight of his crack. And it's just like, and for me, you have a lot of people who want to be sympathetic and, oh, we should be compassionate. I don't look, I have family that smoked crack and they went to jail and they had a hard life. They definitely weren't on boards
Mm-hmm.
of energy companies that were underqualified for. And when you look at the way black people have been targeted by drug laws, specifically laws that were created by Joe Biden, I don't give a fuck about Joe Biden or his son. I have no sympathy. If I had any sympathy, it would be after that motherfucker was in jail for years and his
Mm-hmm.
life was ruined. Him and his father. Maybe then I'd
Then you
consider
might
some
get
sympathy.
a tad ounce of
Maybe,
sympathy,
maybe. But
perhaps.
right now, this is hypocrisy because you
Mm-hmm.
want compassion for your son. We have videos of you bragging about locking people up for 5 years for crack, the amount, the size of a quarter. And you brag about it, signing those bills with Strom Thurmond, maybe the most racist politician we had in this country who didn't actually own people,
Mm.
And so this is the Joe Biden that was elected, supposedly the most popular man or president ever elected, that Democrats, specifically black people, put into office. This is the guy you give a chance to. When it came time to it, he put your people in prison. But his son is smoking crack and taking pictures of it every chance every chance he
Yeah, look at those
can.
teeth. Smile for the camera. Oh man, yeah, it's it's like once again like the Joe like the crime bill. I know we don't want to stay on Hunter and Joe Biden the whole issue. You know, once again our topic is has politics become the new religion. So once again the Trump we've gone over the Trump cult, the Biden cult with the media. They want to cover everything for Joe and Hunter Biden. It's just ridiculous how there's just a generation of black men disenfranchised, destroyed, the families destroyed for doing just maybe a quarter of what the things Hunter Biden has done. But once again, that's where it taps into privilege. I'm not a big sort of white privilege warrior, out here saying like all black folks depressed and all white privilege. But once again, there is privilege. All those
Yeah.
propaganda and stereotypes are based on some truth. So yeah, there's black privilege. There's also this political elite privilege that's troubling. So
And I would say,
yeah.
just to kind of comment
Mhm.
on that, I would say that is probably one of the biggest travesties that we have right now in this age of representation and diversity, equity, and inclusion, all these buzzword language bullshit. Because what happens is the substantive conversations aren't had, right? Because some black people do have privilege, and
Mhm.
some white people don't have privilege. Now, what you find 9 times out of 10 is that the privilege manifests itself on a class line. And in America, class and race are oftentimes so intrinsically linked that you assume that black people are lower class or outcast uh,
Mhm.
people. And so this is why Joe Hunter Biden, no black person alive has been able to accomplish a quarter, not even a quarter of the things Joe Biden's son has done. He's been on the board of an
Mhm.
energy company in Ukraine, the board of an energy
Mhm.
company in China. He got kicked out of the I believe it was the Navy Reserves because he tested positive for crack cocaine in his system. He
Who would
crashed
have
a
thought?
he crashed a rental car and they found a crack pipe in it. He had taken a photo with a handgun and he was not allowed to even own a handgun. I think because he was a felon or something. He's got a baby with a stripper that he denied. You know what I'm saying? When you if you could think of a black person that you could even imagine who could have accomplished any of those things and simultaneously be rich and simultaneously their family name wouldn't be dragged through the mud.
Oh yeah.
And so when you look at what we're talking about as far as it pertains to the religious aspect, what it requires you to do, like religion does in a lot of ways, is it requires you to forego any common sense or
Mm.
anything that you would consider to be supernatural. Forego any of that, right? And make a special, carve out a special privilege, carve out a special dispensation in your mind. Suspend your disbelief just here, just now. And how did that show with Joe Biden? A man who for 50 years showed you that he didn't care about black people. He didn't care about poor
Mhm.
people. He didn't care about what caused crime. He didn't care about who was most affected by over policing, by mass incarceration. You expected this man to get into office and become FDR. You expected this man to get into office and do right by the black community, by the poor, by the incarcerated, by the drug addicted, by the down and out. You expected that to happen. No, what you got is a man who got in office and just coincidentally, the country that his son sat on the board of, that he was wholly unqualified for, has
Woo.
been receiving. I think the numbers now measure about $50 billion in aid and weapons
Oh man, now we
to
touching in
to,
Ukraine. We
to
we
that country.
we got we gotta save some of that. We gotta say that for another episode,
Oh
man.
yeah,
You
oh
are
yeah.
I am picking up what you putting down. And Joe Biden, Ukraine, whole money laundering thing. That's a whole nother one, man. But yeah, I definitely agree. And once again, those of y'all just tuning in. We're a little bit new to StreamYards. I don't know if you can see stats on who's tuning in or not, or where it's just live streaming too. But once again, this is Uncomfy Truths Politics Talk. I'm your host, Conservative Brother, here with Conspiracy Brother. And basically, we got done kind of just beating up on Joe and Hunter Biden and all the foolishness they're doing and all the cultists and sort of people standing behind them no matter what. We first hit on sort of Trump supporters. Once again, I'm not a pro-Trumper. I'm not an anti-Trump like any politician. There's some things that I don't agree with him on. But at the same time, I do think he was cheated out of election. But at the same time, Trump is not my savior. He is not someone I'm going to die for wearing a MAGA hat, going to all the rallies and all that. Oh my God, Trump's going to save the country. He could in some ways contribute to that. But I'm not out here, trying to like touch upon his his cloth. You know what I mean? And of course, there's a lot of things with January 6th that they're trying to blow out of proportion. In my opinion, it wasn't an insurrection. There's a lot of things that they're twisting with the left that are trying to make this into this whole insurrection thing. But like I said, there's a lot of hardcore Trumpers out there that go a little too far. So now, next thing we're going to go to, has politics become the new religion? We're going to hit on the COVID mask cult. All right, we hit on the Trump cult. We hit on the Biden, Hunter and Joe and Hunter Biden cult. Now let's get into Conspiracy Brother into the cult of the mask wearing, which I feel like it took me a while to figure this out, maybe a year into the pandemic, but there's been a lot of videos, studies, science. One particularly, if you look up Sean Stevenson, the science and history of masks, and it just breaks down every myth. Even on the damn side of the box, you can see this mask does not prevent or eliminate the spread of diseases. So it's gotten to a point where a lot of people are so brainwashed to the point where they wear this mask as almost like an amulet. It's like wearing a pin or a badge. It's this badge of honor. I'll still come across stuff on Twitter where people literally are like, I'm the only one on this airplane that's wearing a mask, and you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm doing what's right. Be different. Be the only one. And it's just got to the point, bro. And I thought I was sharing the screen. Oh yeah, you got to share the screen again. Conspiracy brother. Yeah.
Just make sure you let me know when you want to do it, so I can do it.
Oh my bad.
Doesn't let me
I
know.
thought like when I shared it already. Oh, okay. I'll let you know. All right. Yeah. So let's get into a Conspiracy Brother. What are your thoughts on? We talked about the Trump cult, the Biden cult. Now let's talk about these mask mandate cults that are under this mask religion now.
So I don't have the information pulled up, but there's been some research done after all this time, and it showed that one KN95 mask that a person wears offers greater protection for that person than if two people together are both wearing surgical masks or some other inferior mask. And so when you see mask mandates, they fail on their face because what they try to do is a quantity over quality assessment. If a person wants to wear a mask, I have no problem with them wearing a mask. I might think they look stupid. I might think their decision is stupid. I might not. But ultimately, I think you should be free to do what you want to do.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yep.
If you're not wearing a KN95 mask, you're probably still not getting any protection at all. And on top of that, most people who have masks, they wear them inconsistently. They have them around their chins. They have their nose out. And so then it becomes like you're saying, it's a security blanket. It does nothing. It can't do anything because you aren't even wearing it properly. So even if it worked 100%, it would have to be based on proper usage. And you're not using them properly. So that's another aspect of this religious, I don't want to say occultism, but it's this indoctrination. And what it really points down to or points back to is the infantilization of adults and people in this country. We have
Mhm.
gotten to a point now where everyone is treated like a child at every stage in your
Mhm.
life. From the time you're, I guess, except children, because now we expect them to make complex decisions about gender and sexuality at a young age. But adults are being forced to live under the constraints that we normally reserve for children, as it pertains to decision making, as it pertains to bodily autonomy, as it pertains to freedom of movement and medical procedures. And so, you know, and you have people who, in spite of every bit of evidence that comes out to contradict what the narrative has been up to that point, whether it was when Fauci first came out, maybe I'll look for the video and pull it up. When
Okay.
Fauci says, "Oh, masks don't work; they just help you feel better," and then he comes out and
February
says, "Well, I wear."
2020. I remember that.
Right,
February
right, and
2020
then
he
he
said
comes,
that.
and then 6 months later, "Oh, well, I wear two masks, but everybody doesn't have to wear two masks." And then you see him at a baseball game, a Washington Nationals game, and he's not even wearing his mask at all, and he's sitting next to three other people. But or when you saw Gavin Newsom, right? He locked down California, but him and some other political operatives were at in LA at a very expensive
Mhm.
restaurant called the French Laundry, right?
Mhm.
Andrew Cuomo, uh, not Andrew Cuomo, what's the brother? Chris. He had COVID
Yeah, Chris Cuomo.
and
Yeah.
he was outside of his house when it's supposed to be this deadly disease or deadly virus. He was outside his house when he's supposed to have been quarantined. And so we see this two-tiered legal system where the elites and those with money or power or connections are able to live a life opposite everyone else. And that's one of the issues when you look at censorship, when you look at um, these types of authoritarian uh, uh, autonomy policies or whatever. You give the
Mhm.
government the opportunity to to enact these laws on you or me, and they have, due to the connections they have, the opportunity that they don't have to abide by. And that's the problem. It would not be better for liberty's sake if everybody had to follow the rules because we would like to be able to make our own decisions as free people. But in a way, in a real way, it would be better if everybody had to play by the same set of rules. If we knew that Joe Biden, that Kamala Harris, that Nancy Pelosi, that Mitch McConnell, and all those people, whoever they might be, I just chose to try to diversify uh, the political individual, made decisions
Mhm.
that negatively impacted our lives, that they had to suffer the same consequences. This is what we need. We don't need a situation where we give more power to the government and they have the opportunity to object to that power being applied to them in their personal life. Then you're asking to be oppressed. You're asking to be dominated. And I want to be free. I want to be
Mhm.
free to operate in this world like I'm supposed to be able to, at least in this country. Like I'm supposed to be able to as a law-abiding, free citizen.
Well said, my brother. And once again, like, think about it this way: we breathe in oxygen. What do we breathe out, conspiracy brother?
Carbon dioxide, if I'm not
Carbon
mistaken.
dioxide. But guess what? If you've got a little face diaper on, where's that carbon dioxide, that toxic carbon dioxide, instead of it going back into the air, turning back into oxygen and repeating that cycle, where does that carbon dioxide go?
Recycling inside of you.
Inside of us. And then there's also just the issue of you touching your mask, you touching the grocery basket, you're touching the card reader at the grocery store, and you're adjusting your mask. And people just have lost the ability to critically think. And it just blows my mind how much you have to like literally point out the evidence and show people. And literally, oh no, well, CNN just said, the news just said, and they just can't critically think through those options of that very basic concept. Everybody knows or should know, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. And there's just so many studies and just different things. Like I said, Mass Facts, definitely check out this video, the Model Health Show.com / Mass Facts. Watch that video. And then there's all the sites over here. And once again, I know we live in a world where, once again, there's certain studies or certain universities or journals where they can kind of pinpoint and make the studies that they want to kind of go in their favor. Or, they say there's like a popular term in science, like don't ask a question to an answer you don't want to hear. But it's pretty much not up for discussion how much evidence on this side on just how useless masks are. And then once again, they go through this thing on how even like, wearing stuff for surgery. Like if it's surgery and like there's a chance of the surgeons accidentally, as they're talking, spitting into the victim's incision or wound, yes, you need masks for things like that, or Esperol, or I forgot what they call it, like, sort of, just sort of like spit or just different things. But as far as like all day, every day, I see idiots wearing masks all day long. Once again, it's their choice, but they should know that it is slowly killing them. It's not protecting you. It even says on the damn box, it doesn't prevent against a virus. So I think a lot of people, once again, I go to the. Oh, what was that?
Have you ever seen the video of that? It's like a factory in India where they're making masks.
Uh-huh.
I want to show it to you. But you can
What
keep
about
talking. I'm going to pull it up.
Well, yeah. You can, no, I got a screen share already. I could pull it up.
Okay, just type it in mask factory in India. Just find the video. And this is where they're being made. You know what I'm saying? This is where they're being made.
Grade A conditions and shit. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Bruh.
That's a nice one. That's a nice one. The third video. Click that third video. Click that third video. Go back and click that third picture.
Well, these are images, but let me see if video shows up. Right here?
Yeah, the second one. Yep.
All right, will it play the sound? I don't want to go to my YouTube channel and expose myself. We'll play it right here.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. Can you hear Can you hear the audio?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Can you hear that? All right.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Wow. God bless the guy who leaked this video. I don't know if he's out of job anymore, if he's still alive. Yeah, so sterile. Look at that.
I wouldn't even sit on that. I would feel uncomfortable with my shoes on the ground over there. And they're sitting there with the mask on the ground, stapling them together or whatever.
Who would have thought?
It's wild.
It's wild. So it's just, unfortunately, like I said, we could throw a million videos or articles, but there's just people that are the media did a number on it. This was a very articulate mass formation psychosis to where people are just obsessed with the mask. Like Fauci said early on, it gives this false sense of security, where he even said in February 2020, masks don't protect against anything. And then once again, the elites came to him and said, hey, we got to change the playbook. So people are wearing these masks where they're losing less oxygen. They're still masking our kids in schools, where basically these kids are going to get sicker. People are getting vaxxed like anything. We're going to get to the vax cult in a minute. Once again, guys, those of you guys tuning in, I can't tell who's tuning in or not, besides the feds probably. But where this is Uncomfy Truth, Politics Talk. I'm here, conservative brother, here with my other brother from another conspiracy brother, and we're talking about, has politics become the new religion? So we've hit on the Trump cult, we've hit on the Biden cult, Biden Democrat cult. Now we're just finishing up on the mask mandate cult, the mask cult of just this false sense of security, this tribe, this sense of virtue signaling. I'm being safe and responsible, and screw your rights. This is to keep me safe, and wear this mask, or I'm gonna get sick too. And it's just gotten ridiculous, bro. So yeah, those are my final thoughts, man. We can move on to the Vax cult, unless you got anything else to add.
No, I'll save it for the next topic. I mean, the next segment because it's fairly connected.
All right. So, has politics become the new religion? We are now going back to the COVID vaccine and all its glory, virtue signaling glory. And like I said, this can be a whole nother episode. We'll touch on as much as we can. We're trying not to go maybe over an hour. Probably will, but I think between an hour, hour and a half, we're good. But yeah, here we go, conspiracy brother. Here we are at the vaccine, which I'll touch on this. A lot of people forget, because most people that do watch the mainstream media, they don't have an attention span or memory past last week, and they may not remember SARS 2003. They don't remember 2005 bird flu, West Nile virus, Ebola, H1N1. There's been more than one epidemic and pandemic the past 10 to 15 years. And what really drives me crazy is the fact that we never locked down the country. We never mass rolled out a vaccine with less than a year of testing. And then on top of that, try and mass vaccinate an entire population, where there's been studies and scientists that shown that mass vaccination in such a short period can lead to escape variants and all types of side effects, not to mention adverse effects. So it's just crazy how people, all right, once again, my body, my choice, the Vax cult can't wait to kind of just bitch and cry about Roe v. Wade. But comes to the vaccine, screw your body, screw your freedom. Take the vaccine. And it's now become, once again, I haven't witnessed more virtue signaling than we've seen in the past 2-3 years, from one topic to the next. I support the current thing. I think you've seen the meme. I support the current things. It was locking down. It was mass. It was the COVID vaccine. Now it's Ukraine. And so my question to you, man, give us, conspiracy brothers, some insight on this vax cult, on people, instead of treating it like, okay, we have pandemics and epidemics every couple of years. If you're sick, stay home. If you feel a cough coming on, cover the cough. And if a vaccine rolls out, we'll let you know, and it's here if you want it. That's been like the play for all the past pandemics. But when COVID comes around, all of a sudden it's this whole new thing. So just tell me, conspiracy brother, about your thoughts on this vax cult and how it gotten to where it is now.
Well, so I think a lot of it just is. You always have to just follow the paper trail, right? So where's the money coming from? Where's the money going?
Mm-hmm.
And I could kind of see, like, early on, when they were talking about, we're developing a vaccine to try to combat this, I could already tell that it was very likely that they were going to try to institute some kind of massive vaccine mandate situation, because I knew enough people weren't going to be interested in taking it willingly, even with fear that they weren't going to be able to get the numbers they were looking for in order to justify whatever they were doing. So they were going to try to implement some type of mandate. But I think ultimately that's what it boils down to. I've got a couple more very out there. I've got a lot more out there hypotheses about, what is the underlying cause of all this. But that's it. And another show I was listening to today, they said they were talking about how this frequency of vaccines can actually have an immunosuppressant effect, meaning that because your body is seeing that you're relying on something external to provide an immune system for it or an immune boost, it will start to produce less immune fighting capabilities of its own. What what I also saw, and I haven't done enough research in this to be sure that it was true, but they were saying that the Prime Minister of Canada has now instructed Canadians that they'll need to be vaccinated every 9 months. And so, you have to ask yourself, at what point do you, as a free adult, get to make decisions about your own health and safety? Right? Because, like you said, you want to say, oh, my body, my choice about abortion. But if I say, well, my body, my choice, I don't want to take a shot, they want to guilt you and they want to make you feel like, a terrible human being.
Screw you, take the shot.
Right. You putting all these different people at risk, and you're not, we live in a society, and like there's a complete inability to understand. And you could make that same converse argument for people who are pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine and pro-life. For me, I try to keep the consistency that we should all be able to make decisions concerning our bodies with ourselves. But the issue is, the sticky part where it differs with abortion and not is that this is another human being, and so there needs to be some type of limit, right? If a person gets sick because I'm sick, unintentionally so. I'm not going around intentionally coughing on people. I haven't necessarily misled somebody, but it's just incidental human interaction, the kind of interaction we've had for thousands of years. I'm no more responsible for that than if a person, if I take someone's parking spot at an establishment and they're in such a bad mood that they went home and murdered their wife. That has nothing to do with me, right? We all have a personal responsibility to do what we think is necessary for our own survival. And if we choose to do those things that we think are conducive to our survival, that's good. And if we choose not to, and it's a fully consensual decision, informed consensual decision, that's good too. That's ultimately it. I take a very libertarian perspective on personal autonomy. I do. I think in general that you should be able to do things that make you happy, that don't affect other people, that aren't illegal, right? That don't endanger others, that don't have a high degree of harm to other people. I think you should be able to do it. Even things that involve other people, as long as all parties are consenting, I think you should be able to do it as long as they're of age. As long as they're of sound mind and age and body, you should be able to do it. But when we want to try to piecemeal out who deserves to have autonomy and not, that's when you lose me. When we try to carve out special allowances, just like the situation, and this is similar, with Brittany Griner in Russia right now. So they're looking at it now. They're saying, "Oh well, she's got her doctor gave her medical marijuana because she has injury." Well, so what? In America right now, we live in the state of Michigan, or I live in the state of Michigan.
Oh, careful now! You never know the feds watch.
Hey, I'm out here. They already know. They track me anyway.
All right, man.
Conspiracy brother.
Well, I'm from a certain state within the U.S., but yeah, well,
But when you understand that here we have medical marijuana and legal recreation, but if I were to smoke or drink and go to work and be tested at work, I could be fired, right? Irrespective of whether or not it's legal in the state, the federal law still says it's illegal. So it's at the discretion of my employer to make that decision or determination about my employment.
Mhm.
And that's just like her. How do you expect a country that you are not a resident of, a country that is not the country that even issued this, to give any consideration to it if it's illegal where that come from? And so, even in this country, and that's what I'm saying about the double standard. Same thing happened with Sha'Carri Richardson with the track, where they were saying the U.S. is trying to get them to be lenient on her and let her race in the Olympics. But what about all the other people who aren't Olympians, who just smoke weed and aren't hurting anybody, but they're unemployed or in prison because it's illegal? Are we going to do anything for them? Or are they not important because they don't generate enough revenue for the U.S. or enough attention or media or propaganda for the U.S. so they don't count? They get to be ground up in the machine. You know, this is the situation I'm talking about. You want to have a two-tiered system. So if I don't get to express my body, my choice, as it pertains to medical procedures and decisions, neither do you. And now we're in this fight together.
Can't have it both ways. Can't have your cake and eat it too. And yeah, I love what you just said. Like we got to be in this fight together. You can't just be you can't, have it both ways, man. Can't. All right. Okay, so once again, welcome back, guys. Uncomfy Truths, Politics Talk. I am your co-host, Conservative Brother. You were Conspiracy Brother that did an excellent point on those Sha'Carri Richardson and Brittany. I keep forgetting how you spell her last name. Greer. Brittany.
I think it's Griner.
Griner. Okay, Griner. All right, yeah, and because once again, rules for thee, but not for we. Rules for thee, for not for me. So we're back to, has politics become a new religion? I want to show this video. Once again, we were touching on the Vax cult. Once again, and I'm a big concern. While I do lean more conservative than any other perspective, I'm a big believer in being a free thinker critically. I'm not owned by the GOP. I don't identify as a Republican, and I don't sway on any. If I had to pick a cult, man, to be part of, it'd be the free thinking cult, critically thinking freedom cult. But freedom means you can be anything, and you will offer freedom to everybody. So I don't really see how that cult. But if I had to pick a cult, it would be the freedom critical thinker cult. But this is the Vax cult that, yeah. Huh?
Well, see, and that's the thing about it. That's the part about every decision we have to make as it pertains to allowing for freedom. Freedom means the opportunity to do or not do. Freedom means the opportunity to do something or not do something that you would like or not like. That's what freedom, and that's what too many people think. You're free to choose so long as the choice is one that I like. That's not freedom.
Yeah. Or your choice, I have to like your choice. If I don't like that choice, then you need to be what my choice is. And I think that's a great point. Because like I said, you can be in America, you can be a patriot, you can be a pro-black nationalist, you can be a conspiracy theorist, you can be a full-on communist, you can be a Marxist. I don't care what you are, but you don't enforce that on other people. All right. Other than that, I don't care if you're a communist. I don't care if you're a Marxist. Don't bring that shit on me, is all we're saying. That's the beauty of freedom, And that's what people don't get. Like, well, freedom has to be whatever. Everybody has to be what I like, But yeah. What I want to do, just to stay on the farm topic. Like I said, the Vax cult, they need to look at this video because they are putting, once again, this vaccine. These companies, Pfizer, you got people dressing up their kids as Pfizer shots for Halloween, and Moderna, and they just bow at the feet of Fauci and all these cronies that are just making millions, billions off of this stuff. So I wanted to play this quick clip. This is an excellent video I saw a while back that hits on the different companies and their history of lawsuits. Like you're so beholden to these pharmaceutical companies, and you just ignore the past 10, 20 years of all their litigation and history and paying out. I think Pfizer had the biggest lawsuit payout in history. But this is just a quick 2-minute video. And then I'd like to get Conspiracy Brother your comments.
Tonight, keeping drug companies honest, a story that's simply stunning about multi-million-dollar profits and illegal activity at this country's biggest drug company.
The Justice Department alleges Johnson & Johnson boosted sales by paying millions of dollars in kickbacks to pharmacists and doctors who pushed the drug Risperdal to patients who did not need it.
The medical editors of that journal accused the drug company Merck of misleading them about the dangers of Vioxx, of hiding the fact that it caused even more heart attacks than previously known. Johnson & Johnson paid $2.2 billion. Eli Lilly paid $1.4 billion. Pfizer and its...
I just had to stop and comment. I used to love John Oliver, but this motherfucker, obviously just, this is maybe like not even longer than 8 years ago. But of course, the late night comedians are now like, they are just propaganda placeholders that just push all the woke stuff, that push all the pro pharma stuff. But you know, they don't remember just a few years ago you were speaking all the facts on this. But anyway, hold on.
Citigroup paid $2.3 billion, and GlaxoSmithKline paid out a record $3 billion.
For 7 years, Glaxo failed to report data showing they're selling diabetes drugs. Avandia increased the risk of heart attack by as much as 40%.
Opioid epidemic has killed more than 400,000 Americans. Tonight, Purdue agreeing to pay more than $8 billion in penalties.
Pseudopressant Paxil wasn't approved for use by patients under 18. The company illegally marketed the drug for use by children, even when a clinical trial found teenagers who took the drug for depression were more likely to commit suicide than those taking it for placebo.
Purdue Pharma pleading guilty to felony charges of defrauding federal health agencies and violating federal kickback laws for inducing doctors to prescribe those powerful opioids.
Glaxo also hired a company to write a medical journal article downplaying the risk. The firm used PR firms and paid several doctors, including the U.S. celebrity doctor Drew Pinsky, to promote the drug.
You can't trust medical research that gets published in very established journals. What can you trust?
But as Bob Orr reports, the massive settlement may not lead to much change.
Is fraud the business model of the pharmaceutical industry?
No one's going to jail. No one's going to prison. And worse yet, they've set up a situation where Purdue is going to be able to continue on.
You look at this thing, and I mean, if Pfizer is too big to fail, and even the biggest fine in history is just a few months' profit, then what's going to stop it from illegally promoting other drugs?
Critics say Anderson nothing.
Good Morning America is brought to you by Pfizer. CBS Health Watch sponsored by Pfizer. Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer. ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer. CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer.
All right, conspiracy brother. It's pretty much, you know, what else can we say? You think people, you can show this to people and they finally get it, but they just don't. I mean, can I get your thoughts on this?
Well, see, that's really the religious aspect of it, right? Because you have invested so much more than logic and truth in the process. Even if someone shows you the truth, if it conflicts with your worldview, you have to reject it. Like Jimmy Dore always talks about, he says we're a country full of adult children of alcoholics, because that's how we behave, like abused people. And I agree with him in a lot of ways like that. But that's what you see. We have people, comedians. Graham Elwood is one of them. He's a comedian. He's a vegan. He has a show called Government Secrets. And he's pushing the vaccine mandate on people. You know, 2 years ago, well, not 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he was making videos talking about how, you know, Big Pharma is, and now all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, if you don't get the vaccine, you're a monster. And it's just like, come on, bro, what is wrong with your brain? What happened to your brain?
And who's this guy?
Jimmy Dore.
Who's the other guy? I know this is Jimmy Dore right here, but who's the other guy you're talking about who's like pushing the vax now?
Graham Elwood. He used to be on Jimmy's show a lot. They're actually friends. I don't know if they're still friends.
Jimmy Kimmel show?
No, Jimmy
Dore show. Oh yeah, but then he went so far left, vax call.
Well, no, he just so pro-vaccine. He's so pro-vaccine that him and Jimmy kind of had like they had like a schism or whatever.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Yeah,
I mean, the guy is a nut. It's so much cognitive dissonance because on the one hand he'll say, "Oh yeah, Big Pharma and all these different oligarchs and the elites, but then you're pushing people to get this vaccine. Like, how can you believe that they legitimately don't have a hand in making sure that that these vaccines are out there, whether they're safe or not, whether they're actually effective or not, whether they're beneficial or not? You know what I'm saying? It's like he can't see it.
Yeah.
He can't see it.
Yeah,
He
that
can't
gets
see it
me
for
to the
himself.
people that can only half see it. Like, kind of like Bill Maher. And I know that I follow Dave Rubin. He's really good, the Rubin Report. And, you know, he kind of beats up on Bill Maher a lot, too. And I love Bill Maher. I mean, back when I was like, I never got like totally radical left. But, yeah, I was an identified Democrat most of my life, even up to a few years ago. But even with Bill Maher, Dave Rubin points out a lot to where he gets it. He's against the woke left, the alphabet mob, a lot of that stuff. But then he still just sort of defaults like, oh, Trump was crazy. All Trumpers are anybody identifies as right is a white right-wing conspiracy theorist who was an insurrectionist at January 6th. Like, he's still on that. Like, he's starting to come around to like the vaccines are kind of bullshit, these masks are bullshit. He's been kind of like, okay, Bill Maher, I kind of get it. You're kind of getting there on some things, but then, he's still just way off on other things. So it kind of hurts where they kind of sort of get it on some things, and then they're just totally like sleep on another angle. That's frustrating, man. I feel you. Woke comedians.
Yeah, I mean, because of Bill Maher's financial status, he has enough money that he can really just disconnect from the reality of the situation. Because if you can reduce, and this is why racism works, this is how war works, propaganda. If you can reduce your opponent to stereotypes, negative stereotypes, lies. If you can dehumanize them in such a way that you no longer recognize them as a person with, inalienable rights and intrinsic value, only for their humanity, you can do whatever you want to do to them, right? When you look at understanding slavery and segregation, when you look at the Jewish Holocaust, when you look at all those different wars of empire and expansion that have engaged in all around the world throughout history, the main tool that was used first was to otherize your opponent, right? That was the first thing done. You had to otherize your opponent. You had to make it known that they weren't human, and the suffering that they were going through didn't feel the same. And that was sufficient.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the art of which the Democrats done very well is that you accuse them of what you're actually doing and just playing spin. And I think there's another topic I think we need to hit on. We could be another episode. It's called Double Speak, the language used to deceive you. It was a book by William D. Lutz. It came out in 1989. There's like an interview still on YouTube. I'm surprised they didn't censor that, but it's like from like a C-SPAN interview in 1989. And it's just amazing how bad a lot of these people fall for these certain cults they're in. And once again, guys, Uncomfy Truths, Politics Talk. We're about to wrap with our last segment, Conspiracy Brother, Conservative Brother, talking about the different cults that kind of formed where people are literally taking politics and turning it into religion. We touched on the Trump cult. We touched on the Biden cult. We touched on mass mandate cult, the mass cults, vaccine cult. And I think this would be good to end it here on the Ukraine-Russia cult. And I stand with Ukraine, and you see it all on Twitter. They got it in there, the little Twitter handles. This whole Ukraine thing and how people fell for this shit as soon as we got done with COVID, or thought we got done with COVID, and people were starting to wake up, and then you could see like SNL starting to do sketches where they're acknowledging that the mask and the vaccine stuff was a little crazy. Yet in the same episode, they're doing a pray for Ukraine. So it's kind of like as if they were like, okay, the globalists and left were like, okay, all right, they didn't fall for this COVID shit or gig is up, but you know what? We got this Russia-Ukraine thing we about to roll out any damn way. So we could throw it out there and people can acknowledge COVID, blah, blah, blah. But then people turn around and the same people that lied for you for 2 years about COVID and all this other narrative, you turn around and these are people that were all against the COVID and the whole great reset. And then they turn around and fall for this Russia-Ukraine nonsense just like that. So once again, Conspiracy Brothers, we wrap up. This will be our last segment. Tell us about what's going on with this Russia-Ukraine cult that's forming and this whole propaganda for this Russia-Ukraine war.
So I said this before, and I'm still not sure. But I said, I wonder if the U.S.'s intention is actually to destabilize Europe. I wonder if the U.S. is actually basically, you know how, like when you were kids and stuff, and you have like your little brother or sister, little cousin or whatever, your older cousin may have done it to you, where they grab your hand and make you hit yourself.
Yep.
And say, stop hitting yourself.
Quit hitting yourself.
Yeah. That's essentially what the U.S. is doing to Europe. Now, the reason I say that is not to say that we aren't all suffering. But Europe, I think the price of oil or gas in Germany tripled. And it was already like almost double. So it's tripled now. And they're still implementing these policies. They're basically cutting off their nose to spite their faces. And while we're suffering over here in this country, we have a lot of natural resources we just haven't tapped into. We have a lot of natural resources that we just haven't exploited yet. We have gas and oil. I mean, minerals, not to the degree of Russia or China, but significantly more minerals than Europe has. And so, you know, it's. I don't know what the long term. I mean, you know, what it seems like Russia is attempting to do is they're attempting to completely reorganize the current world order. They're trying to, and you hear this a lot in the media, create a unipolar world. They're trying to move away from the unipolar world, which is America as the single hegemon, and to a multipolar world where each superpower has regional dominance and an interconnected relationship with other superpowers who they interact with. And you know, America is really losing its grip on global power. Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia have requested to join the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They're considering dropping, Saudi Arabia is considering dropping the petrodollar, which is essentially what allows the U.S. to behave the way that it does, is what props up our currency. And so they are considering creating a BRICS currency to trade in resources and commodities, and also trade in the native currency of the countries that they would trade with. And all those things are going to have a negative long-term effect on the American empire, right? In ways that some people haven't even considered, right? We are going to lose, I won't say lose it all, because America still has a lot of natural resources, still a lot of innovation here. But we're going to be in a position that America hasn't had to be in for probably 200 years, realistically. And so, you know, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough in the long run. But I mean, apart from that, you look at the ways in which Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Mitt Romney, John Kerry, Nancy Pelosi, his children, have done business in Ukraine. Ukraine is the number one most corrupt country in Europe. And so you have to think of the significance of saying that, period, that you're the most corrupt country on any continent, right? But then you factor into it that countries like Bulgaria exist and Romania, countries that you would think of when you say, Eastern Europe, countries that you would think would be the poorest countries and most corrupt. And it's not, it's Ukraine. And we're giving them $50 billion total when you combine all the money and aid that they've gotten up to this point. And all the different politicians whose children or stepchildren are connected to the country in some way financially.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, brother, conspiracy brother. And I'm gonna be a little more blunt because I'm just like to call the things out as it is. And once again, that was a great sort of breakdown you did there. End of the day, Ukraine is a money laundering country for the elites, the globalists, both Democrats and also a lot of the corrupt Republicans. To be honest, it's all part of the plan to destabilize the United States, man. And the globalists and politicians are trying to cash out as much as they can before the house of cards come crashing down. Now, all those guys out there still think we're woo crazy. The Durham report actually came out. Obviously, it had all kinds of evidence of Hillary Clinton. It had evidence that, once again, this whole Steele dossier was completely made up, was fabricated. There was no Russiagate collusion. And Hillary Clinton was in on it, Obama administration, Biden, they were all in on it. And this whole entire thing with Trump and Russia colluding was made up. And every war, every mission needs a villain, right? We had Saddam Hussein, we had Gaddafi, we had Osama. Now, Putin, once again, he's a bit of a dictator. I know there's some things in his country that he's doing that's not that good. All right. But at the end of the day, Putin is also trying to, I think either, I forgot, he's either trying to, he's not part of the World Economic Forum, that whole agenda. And he isn't about that one world order. So I think him, along with Xi Jinping, the president of the Chinese Communist Party, they're not about that shit. China's going to do what they want to do. Russia's going to do what they want to do. And all those headlines for years, Trump and Russia collusion with Putin, wasn't true. All right. It was all based on a scandal. There's no truth to it. And then most of the sheep walking around can't even connect these critical thinking dots to think, oh, well, their goal was to make Trump look as bad as possible. So in order to make Trump look bad as possible, we got to make Putin look really bad. And they can't even connect these critical dots. And I mean, Trump flat out told Putin, if you do anything stupid, we're going to bomb the shit out of the Kremlin. All right. That's recorded on record. Now, we have to ask the question, why is it, conspiracy brother, that all the leaders in countries that have been pressing this COVID narrative the hardest are the same ones all of a sudden supporting Ukraine's administration in this conflict? Can we not ask that question? As Black people, we're not allowed to even have that thought? Diversity of skin color. Yeah.
Well, like what you said, I think when you understand the corruption in that country and all the hand, because I think they said of the $40 billion package that they just offered the country, I think they said only like $6 billion is actually going to Ukraine because all that money is coming back to U.S. corporations and stuff through the defense contracts and all this other bullshit. And so, I mean, it just goes to show you, like what you're saying, how many hands are in the pot in Ukraine. And just like Boris Johnson in the UK, he said the only way he was going to resign, obviously before he did resign, but he still hasn't stepped down yet. But he said the only way he was going to resign is if the UK pulled out of Ukraine, stopped giving aid to Ukraine. Why are you so interested in tying your political future with this country? And I always joke, but I'm not really joking because this is true. But I would bet that 9 out of 10 people could not find Ukraine on a map if I
Yeah.
labeled the map Ukraine.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? If I only labeled Ukraine on the map, I guarantee you people still wouldn't find it. Because that's how inconsequential this country is to ours. But when you understand the corruption in that country and the ability for the president right now is worth $500 million. The president of Ukraine now, where did that money come from? Where did that money come from?
Had to come from somewhere,
corrupt.
maybe from a taxpayer's pocket or two. One of our trusting American taxpayers. They just think, oh, it's going to buy guns. But man, this can be, like I said, I got a lot here I could kind of unpack. But I think just to stay on topic once again, the cult, because once again we could do a whole episode on Ukraine. But to kind of get back to the main thing about I stand with Ukraine, I think on a surface level, these are just a lot of just misinformed people, not just millennials or young people. It's just a lot of misinformed people that are just all about supporting the current thing, and it's crazy how it flipped. Because once again, we both know Republicans and Democrats are corrupt. Bush administration was corrupt, Cheney pulling the strings. The Republicans, though, were at least known to be the pro-war party. They got us in Iraq, Afghanistan. Of course, there were some Democrats that pretty much probably helped on the back end, obviously, that, back doors. But it flipped from the Republicans openly being for war and this is to defend our country against 9/11 terrorists. And now it's completely flipped where Democrats are the pro-war, warmongering party. And people are just all okay with it because they need this. Everyone wants to have this sense of moral superiority. I support the current thing. I'm a virtuous, good person. And the thing that people realize, we can just get back to the root, like I said, we can go over all the Ukraine dealings on another episode, is that people don't realize that their do-gooderness, that their like bleeding heart liberal status of like everyone's a good person and I think I'm just doing the right thing. There are people out there that are weaponizing that against you. They are taking your do-gooderness, I'm just so righteous and I'm all for this and yes. And there are bad people out there that are taking that to their advantage. They are warping you into this. Let's go into I stand with Ukraine. This is such a great thing to liberate our people. And you don't know half anything about what's going on in Ukraine. You are just trying to chase likes, chase shares, look virtuous, have your little Ukraine flag at your desk at work. And you just have no idea the cult, the Ukraine religion that you're in now. You are literally worshiping Ukraine and falling right into this. And that once again goes to the topic of our show is politics has become the new religion. We touched on the Trump cult, Biden cult, the Vax cult, the mask cult, and now we're ending with the I stand with Ukraine cult. So, conspiracy brother, any final thoughts? I know we're getting toward the hour 30 mark, but I'd like to have you give the floor for your final thoughts just on, I guess, the stand with Ukraine cult or just politics as a new religion in general as we wrap up here.
So just to kind of hit what you just said, what this allows people to do, just like with religion, is it allows you to participate passively in the process. I stand with you. I support the current thing. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to be responsible for my actions or decisions. I just get to say it's the safety or the power of the majority. I can just say I did whatever everybody else did. Just like with church. I don't have to have true convictions. I believe in God. I don't read the Bible. Nobody does. Nobody reads the Bible. I don't pray except over food. That's the standard. I just do whatever everybody else does because that allows me to appear virtuous and good without having to be responsible for the decisions I make. If I buck the system, if I go countercultural, if I swim against the stream and things go wrong, I have to answer questions for that. But if I do what everybody else was doing and things go wrong, I get to hide among the majority. This is what we want. So I support Ukraine, not because I understand what's going on, not because I believe in what Ukraine is doing or what they claim to represent or what their beliefs are, or even if or that I even know. I do it because it allows me to feel a part of something bigger than myself. And I don't have to be responsible for the outcome, no matter what.
Couldn't have said it
Just
any
like
better.
in church.
Politics is the new church. And are you going to fall in line? Are you going to lead and step up? Or will you just fall in line and follow? Appreciate that, Conspiracy Brother. Once again, thanks everybody for tuning in or maybe listening to this in the future. Uncomfy Truths Politics Talk. That concludes episode 2. So we should have episode 1 and 2 up this week. Join us. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That will be on July 30th. So mark your calendars. And Conservative Brother, Conspiracy Brother, Uncomfy Truths. We out.
Okay. Peace.
Peace.